But I have a thought, and I'm gonna run this by you. This is COVID kids. These are the kids who were impacted by COVID. This was a COVID graduation. And what I mean by is this was the freshman class who were halfway into their year when COVID hit. And I wonder how this generation is going to play out. I wonder what's going on, because listen to what they had to deal with. I'm being serious now, because I literally took a step back because I live right down the street from a high school that hosts a lot of graduations. And I'm watching all these people graduate, and I'm thinking, what kind of hell have you been through for the last 4 years? And listen, let me give you a couple things. You didn't get to go to one of your proms. You didn't get to go to one of your winter formals. For the graduating classes ahead of you, they couldn't really invite people. You had to wear a mask. Girls had to compete against boys. You had the BLM shoved down your throat. You had the gay trans movement shoved down your throat. Your emotional health went to pots because you had no emotional interaction with the people because you had to socially distance. Young men were taught that it was bad to be born a male and you should apologize for you being born a man. And then we had the biggest question of all, what is a man? Because men can bleed like women and women can pee standing up like men. We have totally jacked up a generation to where men, this has been proven already. They say these young men that have graduated, they have lower testosterone, they've been feminized, and they feel completely ashamed that they were born a man. What did we leave our children? These are COVID kids who had to graduate or who did graduate. We screwed them up. So out of these things that I listed, we'll start with you, Bill, the agent here. Which one do you think is going to be a bigger problem in the future, or starting now and in their future? Which one of these things that I listed, what's really going to hurt this generation?
Well, I think all those things are going to be impactful. For me, when I think of the kids being away or on lockdown for a year and a half, is definitely the emotional health. One, you think about, alcohol went up, alcohol use, drugs,
suicide, everything,
domestic abuse, all that. These kids had to be at home during that period of time, away from friends and all that. And so anxiety's gone up. I think that's going to be the longest lasting effects, is definitely their emotional health. And we'll see what happens, next couple of years to these kids and how they can get back. So
this is the Not Offended Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, that is. Please tune in, leave a comment. We're talking about, this was COVID kids graduation, the class of 2023. They were shut down in the middle of their freshman year, told to social distance, go on Zoom. We talked about the issues that they're facing now. Token, I ask you, what's going to be the biggest deal, the biggest problem they have to deal with? Is it going to be the BLM, the trans gay thing, the emotional health, young men not knowing what real masculinity is? What's going on with this generation? What is going to be? I want to throw one more. How about a lying government that told you vaccines work and that masks work, and school boards that are completely corrupt? What is going to be what is going to be their biggest issue going forward?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues is the attack on just their gender, and so not necessarily the trans and gay thing, but just men, young boys not being able to be proud of being men, but then also women not being able to be proud to be women, and then also having to compete with, in athletics, having to compete with men. On the women having to compete with men. I think it's crazy, because what culture is saying, when culture, I mean media and things like that, is that, if you dress up like a squirrel or something like that, and you're part of the furry club or whatever that may be, then that's okay. But if you are the way that God has made you, and you're a beautiful young woman or you're a strong young man, you can't take pride in that. And what do you grow up with? What do you continue to blossom into is something that you're not allowed to be proud of. And so you suppress it, you don't express it, and you're going to have young men and young women who are just, they're going to be lacking confidence. They're going to be lacking any social skills because of all the other stuff that went on. These kids are jacked up. Okay, what you got, Bishop? Talk to us. What's going to be the biggest issue? What's going to be the fallout? What's going to be the struggle?
Depending on, kids' background, their family situation in terms of their parents or with their grandparents and them working or not, them just being alone. Not having that support there. I think, me personally, if this would happen when I was in high school, I'd be okay. I had great parents. The area that I lived, I had a lot of friends that we will just hang out outside.
So you wouldn't have been socially distancing?
Yeah, we wouldn't care. But I think I think those kids who are along for such a long time weren't able around other kids, like that makes a big deal. This even with my small kids who are really young, but the way because we kept meeting with other people, hanging out with other kids, they can go to a park and don't have to know anyone to be able to hang out with anyone. You see other kids who aren't able to do that, just because they have the distance, they haven't been around people. They get anxious when they're around other kids.
Right.
And to see that maybe high school kids the same way, they've been away from people for that long, to go back to an area where there's hundreds of kids, the anxiety they must feel, just like, man, this is too many people, and not able to deal with society. Now you graduated, you have to go into the workforce. You're not ready to be around those people. You're not ready to be an adult because you haven't formed those things you need to form in high school.
When I was sitting back and I was thinking about this, I'm going to tell you what I really think is going to be, I would say, the biggest struggle to overcome. Right, the largest adversity it's for the young men. I think other nations are looking at us and they're licking their chops. I think other nations are going, look at this. It's the wussification of a generation where young men, listen, the people always make the big deal like, there's always been a gender pay gap. Men always make more than women because men do more dangerous things. Men are walking high-rise buildings to be sheet metal workers for, 100-story buildings or 80-story buildings or whatever. We lay pavement, we do concrete, we do construction, we roof, we weld. We do the things that are dangerous. Right. And part of it, it's in our nature and our nurture. And what's happened is we've dumbed down our young men. We've made them feel ashamed for how they were created. Yeah. And now they're not being brave anymore. They're not bold. Instead of telling that young kid, jump out of the tree. Let's see what happens. That's great. That's awesome. That's part of being a boy. Ride your bike. See if you can make that jump. Do these things. And now it's play it safe. We need to be cautious. I think these other countries are looking at us thinking, man, they're not going to have any soldiers. Listen, it is much better to be a warrior in a garden than to be a gardener in a war. I love that quote. And we've got to teach this generation how to fight again and how to push back against these woke agendas. Because I'm telling you right now, we need a generation of young men to rise up. At the going rate right now, people aren't having kids. And if you don't have kids, your whole nation is going to cease to exist. We need to teach young men how to find a godly woman, get married, get in a career, and have a whole bunch of kids. Have as many as you can so the faith can go forward. I'm telling you right now, if you look at other countries, that's exactly what's going on. In the Muslim community, in the Hindu communities, in the Sikh communities, they're having a whole bunch of kids because they know this is how you do it. For them, it's, I shouldn't say all of them, for a lot of them, it's the takeover. And we have a systemic issue right now of a woke agenda of pushing against men. And I will not let that happen on my watch. I want to find every young man I can and say, hey, this is real masculinity. It's not about going to the club and going home with some hot chick. It's about finding a godly wife, getting a good career, and leaving a lasting legacy. It's not about your body count. It's about whether or not you believe in Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior. We need to redeem this generation when it comes to the young men. If we don't and we lose a generation of young men, it's over. It's over. You will watch it crumble. And I'm telling you right now, this to me is the biggest issue of our day. Because if we'd have had strong men right now, which they're rising up and they found their voice, we'd be pushing back these woke school boards like they're doing in Glendale. I want to roll a clip of a father right now. That's Glendale, California. Watch this dad speak to the school board, and he's pushing back against this woke agenda. He says, no more. Watch this clip right here.
Thank you for letting me speak here today. I'm here to talk as a parent. I've got 2 young boys. We live in Glendale. And when they come of age, I am deeply concerned about their educational prospects in this city. I'm also a taxpayer. I pay a lot of taxes in this city, many of which go to this district. And I'm deeply concerned about how that money is being spent, particularly, and I'm going to single out a person at in the school district named Dr. Kelly King, who's sitting right here to my left. Dr. Kelly King makes over $250,000 a year. Every 4 years, we give her $1 million. We will be paying for her pension for, the duration of her life after she retires. And she's doing things that I completely disagree with, and I think many members of the community would also disagree with. previous speakers have mentioned the number of Armenians who live in Glendale. How many Armenians would support what she does? Let me discuss what she's doing. In a recent video in 2017, she reflected Glendale Unified policy when she stated, and I'm going to quote, "We have a lot of resistance from male coaches who are horrified at the thought of having a biological girl changing clothes in front of them." Which biological girls are changing clothes in front of coaches in Glendale Unified? That's a question I'm genuinely asking. She continued, "It's not a girl. It's not a girl. It's not a girl. You only have boys in the boys' locker room." She just said it was a biological girl.
May I just stop
I'm
for a
speaking
moment?
now. You're not. No, I'm speaking.
I
This is
will-
interrupting my time.
Well, we
Can I
can
pause
pause
this,
the
please?
time. Can you pause the time for a minute? I only want to say that to refrain from personal attacks. So please.
She is a government official. She's a government employee. This is not a personal attack. I pay her salary with my tax dollars.
Again, please talk towards the policies that you
I'm
are
talking about-
against
and
and
if-
refrain from personal attacks, and your time will continue. Please go ahead.
In what way have I personally attacked Dr. King? She is acting within her official role as assistant superintendent at Glendale Unified. How is that a personal attack? I'm talking about tax dollars being used in a way that I disagree with. I'm going to continue.
Continue talking about the policy that you disagree with.
Dr. King quoted to say that biological girls were changing in front of male coaches. And then, so she knows it's a biological girl, and then proceeded to say it's not a girl 3 times. You know it's a girl. You know it's a girl. Or
Okay,
you know
so
it's a
she's
boy.
an
You know
employee
it's a
of
boy.
ours, and if you wouldn't mind telling us what policy you dislike.
There is why am I being interrupted for speaking about an official member, a superintendent at Glendale Unified, speaking in an official manner? You cannot interrupt me for that. You have no ability to do that. And furthermore, the rules stated you won't debate. You're debating me right now. Correct? I'm going to continue. In discussing permanent records, she states that she keeps permanent records for a handful of trans students literally next to her in her room. She does not indicate that person's gender identity for fear that the parent might find out. Why is she concealing this from parents? She says, we kind of go out on a limb, and we know that's controversial to some people. Which people? Which parents? Armenian parents? Christian parents? Are those the ones who are being excluded from knowledge on their own children and their own identity in Glendale's Unified School District? And you preach inclusive policies. We can talk about that policy. Yet she's excluding parents.
So
She's
again,
excluding parents. I'm going to continue.
And I might just ask for a pause and ask for information. Maybe I'm mistaken. Can you pause the time for a moment, Mr. Sahakyan? Thanks. So I wouldn't mind getting input in terms of, is this?
So my understanding, again, is that we are the arbiters of policy. That is our decision. And so our employees are operating based off of our direction and the direction up here at the dais. So it is appropriate to criticize the policy. It is appropriate to question that. It is not appropriate to personally attack and denigrate a specific employee. I do not believe that that is covered under the public comment.
I'm not personally attacking anybody.
Yes, you are, sir.
No, ma'am, I am not. I am not personally attacking her. I disagree with what she said in her role as assistant
So then you
superintendent.
disagree with the policy, so please continue with the disagreement of the policy.
I am disagreeing with her, and this is not, you are debating me right now. You said you would not debate me. Why are you debating me?
So you're using that particular thing inappropriately, the fact that we don't debate. So
I am not
please,
attacking her personally. This is under her official role as assistant superintendent at Glendale Unified. You are not allowing me to speak freely in a government entity about a government employee. I pay her taxes. I have every right to speak about her in particular within her role. I'm not talking about where she lives, what she looks like, anything like that. Nothing personal. This is purely professional, and this is purely governmental. Can I continue?
Try to keep it professional.
I've already told you what I'm doing, and I'm making that very clear, and I'm not going to change.
Keep it professional.
I have not. I have only kept this professional. You are debating me and you are violating your own rules.
So,
You are
Mr.
violating your own
Sahakian,
rules.
go ahead and open the time again.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kelly King has worked with Gender Spectrum, an organization which you guys have actually paid money to in several schools. If that's not a conflict of interest, I don't know what is. She's worked with Gender Spectrum to produce gender support plans. In these gender support plans, she ranks parents whether on how affirming they are on a scale of 0 to 10. Who determines that? Based on what criteria? I'd love to know that policy. She says, if the parent's not affirming, the parent may not be involved in this document. That's the gender support plan. This may be a private conversation. So let's talk personal now, because she is. This may be a private conversation between that trusted adult at the school. Is that adult trusted by the parent? Who is the trusted adult? Define trust, please. This may be a private conversation between that trusted adult at the school and the student about how we keep you safe at home, emotionally and physically. Who's personal? Who's professional? Personally, I'm being professional. What she has done and the policies none of you have spoken out against is a complete deviation from that sacred boundary between government and personal lives and privacy, especially of minors. And we're talking about sexuality, sexual identity, and you're not going to divulge that to parents intentionally? And again, she makes over $250,000 a year. Wow, 43%, only 43% of Glendale Unified high schoolers are proficient in math upon graduation. Only 65% are proficient in reading, and you pay that much money to institute those policies while you're literally failing to produce the adequate students for the 21st century. Thank you so much.
You should always be afraid of a man in an Adidas jumpsuit. Can I get an amen, somebody?
There it is. He's missing his Kangol hat.
Come on, let's go. Hey, I love me a good Kangol hat. Hey, let me tell you something. This is the Not Offended Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.